welcome, gentlemen. Well, I'm going to start off with Phillip Overmyer, and first of all, I want you to tell us in 30 seconds why I or anybody should go and live in Singapore rather than in Hong Kong.
Well, to start with, of course, the weather is a whole lot better. Why wouldn't you be here? It gets cold and rainy and all sorts of things like that up where you are, and here's a great place. But seriously, what's been going on in Singapore recently is a very, very high employment rate, which attracts a lot of people. In fact, just this morning, the government released some data which said that Singapore now has the lowest unemployment rate it's had in, I think, 40 years or something, 14 years. So the economy is booming quite a bit. And what's attracting companies to come here is that the companies are now looking at Singapore as a place to formulate their business and to be able to develop sort of like what you would do if you were living in Manhattan. Singapore is the corporate headquarters for more and more and more companies that are focusing on massive and different opportunities across Asia.
That was more than 30 seconds, Philip, but I'll let you off. Andrew, same question to you.
Well, Hong Kong, the heart of Asia and the gateway to China. It's interesting how Hong Kong has created a location that is now a choice as a global headquarters for companies. Companies like GE, Schneider Electric.
GE?
GE, their global solutions center, the vice chairman of GE, is based in Hong Kong. So they're choosing it not just as a location, as a regional headquarters, but as a global headquarters. The Infinity brand of Nissan, their global headquarters will now be in Hong Kong. So these are things that say Hong Kong is the right place, and it's the right time, the right opportunity. The availability of talent, I think, is the interesting thing here. And in that survey you refer to, this is where Hong Kong scored very highly. And yes, at the end of the day, Hong Kong and Singapore are only separated by 0.7 of a point. So I have to say it's fantastic that two cities in Asia are in the top 5 in the world.
I want to now just get to the nub of the problem when it comes to Hong Kong, and I believe we can bring a picture of our respective views from the offices in Singapore and in Hong Kong. And there we have it on the right. Look at that, that's gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely clear. That's Singapore. And on the left is, well, Hong Kong. It's murky, it's polluted, that's fog as well. That must be driving people away, Andrew.
It's interesting, you know, companies who come to Hong Kong make decisions based around a whole batch of different requirements. And in our annual census survey, I'm afraid to say that the issue of the weather, which it is today, is very, very much at the bottom of the pile. People come here because it's a profitable and a very good economy to do business in.
Okay, I want to get over to Philip again. I mean, you've got clear skies there, lovely day. Do you often find that people look at pollution in Hong Kong as being a major factor as to moving to Singapore?
We've seen a lot of families that do that. Families that have gotten, set up in Hong Kong. A number of them come down to Singapore largely because they feel that the weather or the pollution is bad for their children and for their families. So we see a lot of smaller companies and people that are worried about that setting up an operation here in Singapore, and then the boss or whoever it is, husband or wife, they're the one who has to travel back and forth up to Hong Kong.
Andrew, how do you respond to that?
We've actually in the last couple of years seen no companies that we know of leaving to go down to Singapore. At the end of the day, it's a personal choice, and some people do that. Other people say they would live nowhere else other than Hong Kong.
I'm sure that there are people who say that they'll never live anywhere else but Singapore as well, Philip.
Absolutely. We have quite a crowd of people that like being here. I think Singapore's real value, though, is not in these areas that you're talking about right now. I think what really makes the difference between the two is that what Singapore is doing and what Hong Kong are doing are actually very, very, very different things. Hong Kong, of course, is the key location to get into one of the most major markets in the world, into China. And what Singapore is doing is it's providing a place for companies, especially the small and mid-sized companies that are now coming to Asia, to use Singapore as a base of launching operations into 10 or 12 different countries around the world. This is where they're starting to put some of their headquarters, especially some of these mid-sized companies that are not used to being scattered all over the world yet. They need to grow, and they're using Singapore as a place to grow from.
Also, I mean, I guess what we're getting here is a sense of symbiosis, aren't we? You need each other, don't you, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, it's fantastic that two of the top cities in the world are both in Asia, Singapore and Hong Kong. I suspect if one or other didn't exist, the other couldn't cope doing the job of both. So Hong Kong is really cut itself a very important niche in the world. And I do say it is the place to come to in Asia.
Well, yes, and probably Singapore as well, right, Philip, yeah? I mean, you know, they need each other, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. I think both markets need each other immensely. And one of the reasons they need each other is because they compete with each other. And they're really the only two marketplaces that can put up serious back-and-forth sort of competition, which, of course, is good for both sides. They both grow and grow and grow. Obviously, Singapore has won right now, so you're welcome to come down whenever you want.
Ah, come on. That's a cheap shot right at the end there. I've got to let Andrew just have his final word.
Well, I have to say, in the interest in the fact that, you know, here in Hong Kong we have the free flow of information, and I think that Hong Kong really is the only place in Asia.
Yeah, there should be magnanimity in victory, Philip. But anyway, thank you guys. I was hoping.
Thanks very much.
I was hoping that you're going to come to blows at some stage, but you didn't really properly. Phillip Overmyer there from the Singapore International Chamber of Commerce, and Andrew Davis from Invest Hong Kong. Thanks, guys.